Hello, and thank you for taking the time to view this video on the IBM Business Intelligence Pattern 2.0. My name is Anthony Schofield, the Product Manager for the BI Pattern. And during the course of the video, we're going to take a look at the PureSystem Centre, where you can view the catalog of patterns for the PureSystems family, specifically the Pure Applications catalog. And then we'll view the Pure Application Systems, where you can create and deploy a Cognos BI instance by way of the use of the pattern, and review how it's deployed and then managed. So the PureSystem Centre is an online repository and catalog of the patterns available on Pure Systems. As mentioned, we're going to look specifically at Pure Applications, given that the BI pattern resides as a Pure Application virtual application, or VApp. So to view these, you look at the patterns, and you'll see there are a number of patterns available. When we first started with the Pure Systems family and Pure Applications, we had about 80 patterns. Currently there's over 225 Pure Application patterns. To view the BI pattern specifically, we just search for Business Intelligence. And this will give us full details around the BI pattern versioning and what is included in this release. Patterns themselves are used to capture the expertise that we've come to gain over the years of deployments of various types of software to set up, manage, and deploy more effectively and reduce the overhead for these type of tasks. You can see that in Pattern 2.0 release, we consume Cognos Business Intelligence 10.2.1, and from 10.2.1, the features that we surfaced in Pattern 2 is full support for dynamic cubes, multi-tenancy, the use of mobile, and the ability to use custom authentication providers as user registries. So now let's jump into Pure Application Systems to view how this is created, how a deployment is created and deployed for use by end users. So when visiting the Pure Application Systems, we will go through the workload console. And when in the workload console, you can look at the pattern types that are installed on a system. For here we can see that there is the Business Intelligence 2.0 pattern available. The status is available and the license agreement has been accepted, and that would be done after the installation of the pattern onto the box. Knowing that, we can visit the pattern virtual application section where one would build and manage their virtual application patterns. So you can see I've got 3 here already. Let's take a look at the future chips production pattern, and under the preview section there's a real-time thumbnail. We can open that up, and within here we will create the specifics around the instance of the pattern that we wish to deploy. So in this case it's all a drag and drop environment. Everything you need to do is drag it out and drop it. You can drag and drop, and then once something is dropped in, you'd simply drop and connect the dots. So here we will ask you for some environmentally specific information. Specific to Cognos, you can identify which type of database you wish to use for your content store, enter your database name, port and information, IP and port information, as well as user information. This is also the place where you would upload your JDBC drivers for the connection to the content store. In this case I'm using Pure Data drivers. I've already uploaded them, so I'll just cancel out of that. And this would also be done for your data source connectivity, so you can have any supported data source that would be supported in a standard or historical Cognos 10.2.1 environment. You'd also identify things like administrative credentials. If you were to have a user registry, you'd identify an administrator there, your mobile information, and then your throughputs. With the throughputs, you can either have a standard or an advanced configuration. The standard allows for a low, medium, and high selection, and that specifies primarily the Java heap size that would be deployed. Or you can specify an advanced configuration where you can manually enter these values based on the values listed in the tooltip. For the purpose of the demo, we're going to stick with a standard deployment. And then something that Cognos BI pattern offers that has not yet been seen is the use of scaling policies. We use CPU-based scaling, where an average of the CPU usage of the environment is monitored, and when it exceeds a certain threshold for a predefined amount of time, we automatically stand up additional application tiers. And what that means for the business is that historically you would have to stand up maybe 10 servers to be prepared for load, be it there or not. If you know at a month end you're going to have more reports running, you need 10 servers, you'd have to manage those servers through the course of the month, waiting for that peak volume. With the use of the BI pattern, that's no longer needed. You specify however many static servers you want, 1, 2, 3, however many you wish, and then you can specify how many app tiers will actually scale out. So when that CPU usage threshold is met for the predefined amount of time, in this case 600 seconds or 10 minutes, we'll stand up that application tier. The workload will then be divvied over those new application tiers, completed. Once completed, we'll recognize that they're no longer needed and scale them down, releasing those resources back to the environment for other servers and other deployments or workloads on the Pure application systems to use. So once you've completed the creation of the BI deployment, you can save it or save as, and you can template items on this. So as opposed to just saving it, if you know you're going to continue to use the database IP import, you can lock that. These are items that everything here can be locked so that your administrators don't have to remember this, don't have to type them in manually every single time. So I've already saved this out, and at this point you can deploy the instance, and you'll see that during the course of deployment you specify a name that you want to view under the instances. You can also specify the profile under which it will be deployed. If there's different permissions for different profiles, just ensure that you're deploying under the profiles that have the appropriate permissions. The priority of this deployment, so if there's a collision for resources, this one would take priority if it's high, and the IP groups. You also specify things like SSH keys if you wish to do so at the time. But in true demo fashion, we've already got an instance deployed here. So I'll flip over to the application instances that are already deployed. You'll see I've got Future Tips production already up and running. Now with the deployment that we just saw, I've got 7 virtual machines standing up in this environment. Content Manager 1 and 2 for redundancy. Application tiers 1 and 2. One is an auto scale for my scaling policy. A dynamic cube server, and an NFS server. And the purpose of the NFS server is a common repository for things like Power Cubes, deployments, and company logos that all application tiers that get scaled up and down will have access to. Now to note the time of this deployment, I started this on July 24th at 10:50 a.m. By the time the virtual systems had deployed, it was July 24th, 11:05 a.m. So 15 minutes to deploy these virtual machines. So that stood up all of these boxes, and the middleware status would take just a few more minutes after that to finish starting. But within roughly a half an hour or less in this instance, we had 7 servers up and ready to go. What does that mean? Is that a real environment? Yes, it is. Just like you would historically, you can take a look at the Content Manager URI and you'll see the status is running. And then to access the environment directly, you would offer your end users the local dispatcher URI. So if we select that, we'll be dropped right into the Cognos connection environment as we know it. From here, you can check out your Cognos administration. We'll see all of the servers that are deployed in the environment. And that's under the System section. You see all of the different servers with their availability. Some are partially available given their role in the environment. They may not have all services enabled by default. That can be managed just like it would be done historically with any other Cognos installation. And you see I have a Power Cube set up with a gross profit of product line by year report, and you see how quickly this runs. And with that, it's a Power Cube that's hosted on the NFS server, as I had previously mentioned. So once the environment is stood up, you can access it quickly and easily for your end users, but how would an administrator manage this environment? Well, that's all done on the top right here through the Manage button. And we see the Future Tips Prod virtual application instance. We can filter down to just the business intelligence instances. So once in the virtual machine monitoring section, we have all of our VMs listed. Let's just select the BI CM1, so the Content Manager 1, and on the right hand frame we'll see all the graphs providing the metric detail around the various inputs and outputs, network traffic, storage, and things of that nature related to the VM itself, and that can be viewed for all of the different servers. Where you would have historically had to visit each VM to view the logs of each server, with Pure Application Systems and the BI pattern, you can visit the logging section and view all of these logs in one common location. Simply view the server that you wish to investigate. In this case, let's take a look at the Content Manager 1. Expand the folders, and you'll see all of the logs that you've known from the past to be located in a single location. And when they're selected, they will be presented in the right-hand pane where they can be viewed for further immediate analysis. Or if you wish to view them from a different location, you can click the Download All button at the top, and this will allow you to take one zip of all of the logs from all of the servers quickly and easily. In addition to this, we can visit the Operations tab. And the Operations is where you will update any passwords, JDBC drivers, anything of that nature which may change. As passwords tend to expire after time, you would simply come in here and update any passwords, any user IDs. If there was a new JDBC driver required for a new data source connection, that would all be done here. When they're entered, you can submit them, and the submission will create an operation execution, and with that operation execution, the Pure Application Systems will take control and stop all services, make changes, install different JDBC drivers, place them where they need to go, and start the services again without any additional interaction from the administration team. This drastically minimizes the downtime that would be required for these type of operations. The same is true for the installation of any updaters, so fixed packs, hot sites, or the like. You simply come into the product maintenance section, select the hot site that may be available once it's uploaded to the Pure Application Systems, and submit that. Once that's submitted, then again the system would stop services, install updaters in proper sequential order, and then start all services again. So with that, you can see the ease of management for the Pure Application System and the BI product on it. And with BI on the environment, you can have, with the single installation of a BI pattern, as many instances of BI deployments as you wish within the confines of the licensing available to you. That said, you can have test, prod, dev, sandbox 1, 2, 3 as you wish to perform upgrade tasks and so on, or development. Creating these type of environments is quick as cloning an existing instance if you wish. So for example, BI sandbox Nick, see Nick needs a second sandbox. I'm simply going to take this one, I'm going to clone it, and within seconds I'll have a copy of this sandbox. I would open it up, change the service name and the content store name, and then I can deploy it, and within moments I've got an additional sandbox for Nick to use for any other trials that he may need to do for the day, and just as quickly, once he's done, I can delete it. And this is all available with the single purchase of the BI pattern per Pure Application System. Some other questions that we will often receive is around licensing. So as I mentioned, you can create as many deployments as you wish within the licensing that you have. The licensing is no different than a historical license. So if you're a current Cognos customer, those licenses simply carry over. There's no new license parts because you're using Pure Application Systems with the BI pattern. The pattern technology is a separate cost than the BI core product. So if you own Cognos 10.2.1 or if you purchase 10.2.1, there is an additional cost for the BI pattern, but it's a nominal $5,000 list price. That would be a one-time fee for one Pure Application System. Of note, the Pure Application BI pattern does focus on the use of dynamic query mode and dynamic cubes. And this is the direction of the product, so we've chosen to use the lightweight JDBC drivers and focus on dynamic query mode and the use of dynamic cubes for the in-memory and high-level performance processing that is seen with the use of these new modes. So the cost of the systems do vary. The IBM Pure Application Systems does vary. So for the use of the Pure Applications, there is a Pure Tiger team and the Application Integration Middleware group, or AIM. So you can contact the information sales rep for additional Pure Tiger team contact information. Other questions include, are there any other patterns from business analytics? And at this point, only the BI pattern currently exists, but there are investigations to bringing SPSS and TM1 to market. Sometimes we hear about Windows. Do we have a pattern for Windows? It was only as of late that Pure Application Systems released their Bring Your Own License Windows deployments on their 1.1 boxes, and we're hoping that this will allow TM1 clients and other clients to use their own tooling to create patterns. And to that end, clients ask, are you able to change the pattern or build their own? And to that, yes, you can, to an extent. The tools used to create ours are included with the Pure App box. So by using the license SDK that you have access to with the box, you can extend this pattern or create your own to interact with it. And then finally, why is this better than a standard virtualization play? Why is this better than virtualizing an environment? Well, what we've heard from clients time and time again is problems with virtualization sprawl. As they acquire companies, or as their companies grow, they see VMs spawning up all over the place. They see through different servers, different environments, duplication of VMs. With the use of the Pure Application Systems and the BI pattern, that is drastically minimized. You can stand up environments and reduce them as quickly as you need to, but you can also easily monitor the environments that are active or not active. So you can remove the ones that are not, you can manage the size of each environment, and you can clone environments to create duplication, but also remove them or modify them to have the different components as required. The single pane of glass really shrinks the amount of overhead that's involved with the management of multiple Cognos environments or of ever-growing Cognos environment. The scaling allows administrators to maintain smaller environments when smaller environments are required, but then as they scale out and scale up, they are able to more effectively monitor and manage those environments as well. So we can see how the BI pattern on Pure Application System will be a huge success for clients as they see their environments being managed and growing. Email address listed here, anthony.schofield@ca.ibm.com. Thank you for your time.